Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start with a little exercise. So can you please stand up, everybody? And also you at home, if you watch this video, please join us in this exercise because you need the experience later on in the story. So let's practice first. I give you a word, and I like you to express that word with your body. For instance, I give you wind. Show me wind. How does a wind look like? Well done. That goes well. Okay, now let's start. I give you freedom. How does that look? Freedom. Whoa! Everybody goes like that, huh? I give you equality. How does that look? Hands together. Balance. Yes. And now, not to your surprise, I give you brotherhood. How does that look? Yes, we start hugging, huh? Yeah, very nice. Thank you. You may sit down now. Now remember the different energies that these values gave you when you did the exercise. And remember them throughout life, throughout the story. I have a dream. In my dream, this Trinity, freedom, equality, and brotherhood, comes truly alive in society. It is as old as the French Revolution, almost 2 centuries ago, but is highly as important as ever for today's world. In my dream, we understand freedom as the freedom to become who we truly are, learn, take the space we need, enjoy the being alone. It leads towards competition, innovation. It leads to diversity. In my world, there is equality for everybody, meaning a democratic voice to all, equal rights, the right to live for all. And it leads towards regulations, uniformity, quite different from freedom. And in my world, there is brotherhood, and we understand our deeply mutual interdependency, the dependency on Mother Nature. We experience the joy of being together, share love. This leads towards collaboration. Now, I think these three will bring back life into the economy. And I wonder if you recognized all of them in the little exercise you did. But before I had this dream, I had to experience the world as it is today. In my younger years, I used to ride my bike to school, wondering, everything seems to work like clockwork, but how? People know where they are going and why and how, and I just didn't know how to fit in. I just didn't understand this thing called economy. Years later, when I went to Suriname to become a social worker, I worked with teenage mums, and everybody on the street was upset about the structural adaptation programs at that time by the IMF, focusing on liberalization and privatization. There was the economy again, back in my face. And I made a clear decision to shift my attention towards economics, because I had that strong desire of changing course of society, instead of helping dropouts back into a society that is heading the wrong direction anyway. But studying economics wasn't my thing. I remember my first class in 1995 when the professor told me, economists work with models. They don't correspond with reality anymore, but they work. Is that the ambition level of this university? And what do you mean work? Serious. And a few months later, I got laughed at by 300 students, including the chief of the IMF, who I asked the question, "Sir, who is part of these teams that conduct these structural adjustment programs? Are there historians, anthropologists maybe?" And he said, "Dear girl, of course there are only economists." Well, we now know where that arrogance has led us to. Then I left university frustrated, but I still wanted to know more about that economy. So I started working for a large Dutch bank. And as I half expected, I got stuck in this corporate culture where I didn't fit in. And my colleague who sympathized said, Damaris, do you know how I do that? In the morning, when I go to work, I turn around the door and the key in the front door, and I leave myself behind. That's how you survive. Whoa, some advice, huh? Leave yourself behind. And who will then take over? I was not going to do that. By the time I left the bank, I could finally say, it's not that I don't understand the economy. I understand it perfectly well. I just do not agree. And in 2009, I was finally ready to say, enough is enough. I started a new initiative that became Economy Transformers, a movement to push for fundamental change in the economy. Now, telling you all these experiences, I discovered a worldview, a way of looking at society that gave me that constant feeling of not belonging, of being alienated. And I believe I'm not the only one, so bear with me in my speech if you wish to step onto this powerful wave of change that will bring back life into the economy. But how are we going to do that? I discovered at least 3 new perspectives that we need to develop in order to get there. First, we have to recognize our heart as a compass for society. Second, we then need to develop our heart, mind, and willpower. And third, we need the holistic approach that brings back a life to the different parts. Now, zooming into the first one, recognizing your heart as a compass. Remember the professor who said, we work with models. They don't correspond, but they work. Don't get me wrong. A lot of good things come out of science and always will. But we have to break with the current way of thinking that leads towards the idea of an objective reality out there only. In the economy, objective and subjective realities come together. They transcend. So we have to be brave enough to measure everything we create outside with our hearts, with the subjective reality, coming from our hearts, our feeling, our intuition, sense of humanity, call it morality. Now, we often know better, but we just don't listen enough to these inner voices. And I don't like my colleague at the bank who left himself at home. And I don't blame us. We're not trained this way. But we have to start we have to relate everything that you create outside with who we are and what we wish for. That means your heart is not a private matter anymore. It is important for society, and make it. So if we do that, then we have to open up for ourselves and for others. We have to understand the linkage between what's in us and what we create outside, and how they connect and influence one another. Our education system is not geared to do that. It's focusing on producing a labor force, neglecting to develop who we truly are. That's also why a lot of people want to buy sustainable products, but they can't fulfill their wish when they have to pay the price. And then many other people do personal development trainings, but it's highly discriminative to leave that for the only happy few, to have that for the happy few who can pay for it. So our education system should develop our mind and our willpower to guide that heart, to be that compass for society. Now, the holistic approach that we need. An easy example, if my leg hurts, my full attention is drawn to it. I can't be anywhere else anymore. I call myself sick and I go to the doctor. So when it comes down to my body, I fully understand that all my body parts, everything that's there, need one another to fully function, right? Right? Now, how is it then that when it comes down to society, we lose that holistic perspective? We can only operate from the different parts. For instance, that product again, the price I pay is not giving the farmer decent living on the other far end of the chain. So to summarize these three new perspectives, recognize the heart as a compass, develop mind, heart, and willpower, and understand the holistic approach that brings alive the different parts. Now, living and applying these new perspectives is not an easy thing, not for you and me as individuals, let alone for the entire society. But with crisis after crisis and only more to come, there is no other alternative. This also brings me back to the Trinity of freedom, equality, brotherhood. Because to fully understand the meaning of these values for society, we can link them to these new perspectives. And if I do that shortly, then that's also why they inspire me so much. If I link them to that, we need to develop our consciousness. Then I can recognize them as part of myself, as part of nature. And I wonder if you recognize them also, that you have them all three in you. And you can investigate them and find the full meaning of them. If you link them to the heart as a compass, you understand that because they're part of nature, you have to find them in society as organizing principles as well. And if not, then you're only expressing half of who you are. So they come out consciously, or they come out unconsciously. And when they come out unconsciously, that is most likely not the correct way, applied correctly, or balanced properly. Because that requires our human intelligence. And the link with the holistic approach, if you need all three for the balance, then you understand that choosing one above the other doesn't feel right. And I bet you have your preferences when you did them. Most of the people in the West have a preference for freedom, taking space. But abandon one above the other? I doubt it. So the big question is, how do we balance them in society? And when do we apply which organizing principle? And I invite you all to join me in this ambitious challenge to find answers to that question. Now, if we zoom into the economy a little, in a nutshell, our economy is competition and growth oriented. In my terminology now, it is shaped by the laws of freedom. It's capitalism, still the best economic system so far in history. Although it's cracking, we still have no other option. Now, the public debate is always freedom over equality, capitalism over communism, more market, or do we need a little more state regulation? And there's no other debate. And it's a false debate, and I tell you why. In our economy, it is about fulfilling my needs, produced by others, given the resources. Now, my needs, my material needs, are always selfish. If I drink water, which I would love to do, you can't drink it anymore, it's gone. It's a selfish act. And perfectly legitimate, that's how needs work. But understanding that fundamental mutual interdependency that could transform that egocentric motive into something new, into the joy of producing for others, into the spirit of brother and sisterhood. Now, freedom and equality became well-known organizing principles in society. But somehow we've abandoned brotherhood to our private lives, to family and friends. That leaves us with an unhealthy, incomplete, and unresilient society. And we're not able to solve our problems. So the Trinity shows me a way to go beyond that classic dichotomy between freedom and equality. Now, excitingly enough, this dichotomy also doesn't correspond with current reality. Because look around, there's an unstoppable bottom-up movement of initiative that show the spirit of brother and sisterhood. We move away from that classical supply chain thinking in which we are a stakeholder fighting against the stakeholder for the best price, towards creating a value network, creating shared value for all the stakeholders in the chain. We start energy cooperatives, we grow tomatoes in city gardens, we share a car, we exchange goods on the web, we strengthen our communities and become more resilient. We think globally, we act locally. We understand if we want that fair and sustainable trade, we need to know one another. And the only thing by doing that is collaboration. So, look out for the pioneers of today. Sustain them, because they showcase the spirit of brother and sisterhood. They bring back life into the economy. By placing back life, the heart, back in the center of your actions, we are actually creating a world in which we want to live in. And that's my future economy. That's my dream. Thank you.